Critical thinking isn't just for scholars or business tycoons. It's for everyone, every day. It's about making sense of the world and not just accepting it as it's being presented to you. Critical thinking is about being thoughtful, reflective, questioning, and frankly, a bit more savvy in how we navigate life's ups and downs. So, in this episode, what I wanted to do was talk a little bit about critical thinking generally and why it's so important for us, whether it's business, student life, or our personal lives. So, welcome to Think with Serena. Let me give you a very quick introduction. I am a strategic consultant, also a systems thinker. I'm currently in my postgraduate study. I've been in media, communications, and public relations for more than 20 years. Also a chartered public relations practitioner. I stream about politics and media on my streaming channel. So I am also a content creator. You can find out more in the description. And recently, I'm the founder and director of an interdisciplinary think tank launching spring 2025 called Puck's House. I'm a creative and an educator. So that's why I'm here, because let's not gatekeep really smart thinking. So let's get into this episode. Have you found that this phrase, this way of describing the kind of thinking I'm talking about, is just sort of generalized without thought about being much more specific and demonstrating it rather than saying that we're doing it? Because not everything is as it seems. It is so evident, especially in this world of social media, where everything flashes before our eyes on our screens constantly, continuously, just perpetually, and without any pause. It's not letting up unless you actually lock your phone away. So it's so crucial for us to find moments to take a moment before we react or jump on any bandwagon or before we accept something as fact. What we do have to ask ourselves is this really the full story? Are these all the facts? And it might be that we have to remind ourselves that it's being told by one perspective. So it may be factual according to that one perspective. We should also be asking who benefits from this particular piece of information being spread and disseminated. Who? So it's not about taking things for face value. And it's most definitely about digging much, much deeper. But critical thinking is also about solving life's dilemmas and puzzles, whether it's what you're trying to figure out or actually negotiate with your partner or flatmate or whoever about what to watch on TV, on Netflix, what to book for a holiday or a break, trying to navigate a tricky situation at work, or having a bit of a challenging conversation with a loved one. Critical thinking helps you to break problems down and to see the problems from different angles. Recently, I had quite a challenging conversation that I knew I would, end up having to do once again. And whilst I didn't get to actually share my perspective, I was able to reach to some kind of an understanding and accommodation because I was able to echo and acknowledge the sort of very contrasting perspective, which I didn't agree with, but the other party therefore felt heard. It's quite difficult to do that, and we don't always do it perfectly, especially when we're reacting. in the moment. So ensuring that we see other angles and other perspectives, you can call them different paradigms of seeing things, then we can at least make a bit of a dent in this thing called cultivating critical thinking. It, essentially, you don't want to just say and do the first thing that pops into your head unless you're really in a state of, I don't know, creative flow and being in the flow state where things very are very much spontaneous. But when you're dealing with a challenging situation, pause is definitely required. Critical thinking is also needed when you're making decisions, big or small, like choosing where to live or what to order on Uber Eats or delivery or whatever. So it's about not just doing something because perhaps it's a habit or because it's what others are doing. You need to weigh things up. You need to weigh up your options. You need to consider consequences, unintended consequences, and make choices that actually suit you and your situation. So many times, and that I remember in my 20s and 30s and 40s now, that I recall making decisions that actually weren't suitable for me. They made sense because others had said before this point that this is what is common sense. Common sense changes because common sense is relative to what's currently common, and what's currently common is constantly evolving. And you can clip that and circulate it, just credit me. Critical thinking is also necessary to understand other people. When you're having a chat with someone who is a completely different viewpoint, it helps you to see where they're coming from without immediately shutting down, without getting defensive. It's about try to see it from their perspective. You know, when people talk about empathy, and this definitely helps in the workplace, it also helps in your personal life. It allows you to understand more, and maybe, just maybe, you'll find some common ground or at least respect the differences. When I was having that challenging conversation, I can't say in that moment I was actually, or even now on reflection, that I respect the difference. In fact, I'm finding it quite difficult to accept the difference because it very much is contentious. However, me holding on to my position, it doesn't necessarily move things forward. And what it does, it sort of actually keeps me stuck. And so then I have to make an accommodation, which isn't quite a compromise, but you see, it's much more of a stalemate situation. So you've got to sort of understand whether it's a hill that you want to do that thing on, or whether you want to fight that battle, and whether there's any point in doing so. In an age where there is so much information, and it's everything's nowadays being labeled as misinformation and disinformation, it's almost like it's constantly raining, and critical thinking is your umbrella. It's about questioning sources, checking the facts, making making a record of the different perspectives, because there are many, and not letting yourself be easily swayed by what might sound convincing but actually lacks substance upon reflection. And you might verify something and actually, no, it doesn't make sense, or it requires a little bit more delving into, a little bit more research, and being willing to do that and pause and to say, actually, you know what? I don't know. That in itself is showing somebody who is much more reflective and critical in their thinking, because that person, you are not immediately jumping to state your position and your perspective because you're still figuring it out. And it's okay to still be figuring it out. So critical thinking really is about making sense of the world and not just sort of getting dragged along with the calculations of others. You've got to do very much, you've got to do your own calculations. So exercise that sort of habit of being much more thoughtful and questioning. And like I said at the very start of this episode, being savvy in navigating life's ups and downs. I really appreciate your time and attention. And if you have liked, commented, and subscribed, excellent. I'm a new channel, but I'm not new to content creation. So I really do appreciate your support. Do share this with any students or leaders or entrepreneurs, anyone in your circle really that could do with this kind of strategic thinking content. That's what I'm looking to provide on a regular basis. This is what I have recognized as a real, I think, not just gap, but a void, and not just in the market, in our society, especially at this time of insane information saturation, and also at a time when in our professions, in our careers, in our development, whether it's academia or personally, we have to be much more thoughtful and strategic in what our next moves are going to be, considering all the changes that are currently happening and what could be coming down the line. I appreciate your time. Once again, I'm Think with Serena. Please do subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.